So, Shamishta, welcome to the show and thank you so much for being with me. I am super delighted to have you this morning.
Thank you, Nosheen. And as every time, I'm also super excited to be here with you and the amazing hostess that you are, have been for the last two episodes. And it has brought many like hidden aspects of relationships into light. And we're going to go on with that even in this week.
Yes, very true. Shamishta, how do you define power dynamics? How do you define roles in a relationship? And what do you have to tell us today about this?
So, the concept of power, as we understand in today's society, is about, who has more control. And it is a very misunderstood concept, as I understand, and that's why there is so much of dysfunction. We all, as males or females, as women and men, we have our, let's say, what should I say, abilities. Let's call it abilities, or where we excel better than the others. Like women excel in certain things more than men, and men do in other things which women fall behind. But together, the balance is together. It's not like women becoming more like men wouldn't cause any balance, will cause even more dysfunction. And when we see that men becoming more like women, that also is will cause dysfunction. So we need to understand the whole dynamics, how it works, the whole system of a family unit, how it works, and whether you're in a relationship which like you have the stamp of a marriage or not. Whenever you are cohabiting in a relationship, like together, like you have created a space together, whether you live together or you do not live together, but in your mental state, in your emotional state, you hold that person close to you. There are certain things that you need to understand which brings harmony in that cohabitation space, whether it is just an emotional space or a physical space.
Right. Why is harmony necessary? Can people consciously create harmony?
People can only consciously create. Unconsciously, no one can create harmony because it is not in our, let's say, innate power to create it. Like how animals live together in a group or in a flock. They have to obey certain rules when they belong to the flock or to the group, to the pride, whatever you call it. So let's say there is a leader who leads the whole group, and the others follow the leader, because once they follow the leader, that is where safety lies of the whole group. And if one person falls behind, then the others in the group looks after that person and brings them back into the group so that all can be safe together. This is how we all are as human beings living together in a community which we call society. The same rule applies here.
Right. That's quite clear. So, when it comes to power dynamic, usually exercising control becomes a necessity for some parties in a relationship. And do you believe that it's the desire for control which is affecting a relationship, or is it a very submissive role played by the other person that affects it? How things work in a family and how balance can be created?
So, like I would like to give you a little, and our viewers, a little background of where we are coming from, why this disbalance or dysfunction was created. For that, we need to go back and look at the social history. Why, during the time when social society was in the preliminary stages of formation, there has been like a skeleton of a prehistoric man found recently, not too many years ago, where they saw that the man had a broken femur, like leg, thigh bone, which had was broken. And during the X-ray, they took the radiology and all that. They saw that the fractured bone was healed, and scientists Paleontologists, they are saying this is practically the first sign of civilization. Not when human beings built weapons or pottery, but when human beings stood together as a community and helped someone heal. You know, in animal world, breaking a leg means what? It means death.
Hmm.
Because if you don't have a leg, you won't be able to run away from the predators. And
Yes.
you will be caught up. No group can, no matter how strong your group is, they will not be able to protect you. And they will rather look after the safety of the whole others in the group than one person whose leg is broken for them. They're not going to jeopardize their lives. So they will run away to safety, leaving this one person behind. But we can see in human civilization, even when a human had a broken femur, there were other
Hmm.
humans who had to be around him to feed him, to nurse his wound, to heal him back so that he could stand up and go about doing his life once again. This practically is the first sign of civilization, where we stood together as a community and supported each other.
Right. So there has to be a support system.
There has to be. The whole purpose of human beings, like our prehistoric ancestors, who used to
Hmm.
live nomadic, single life, they were living
Right.
for themselves. They started to live together only because they saw the chances of survival more when they lived
Hmm.
together as a community. So when they started to live together, obviously they saw many advantages as well as disadvantages. Like they could go, and now there were more chances of killing an animal than being killed by the animal because they were killing together one animal. When other animals were raiding, let's say, their caves, then they could all stand up and protect themselves from that animal. If someone was sick, then they could fetch food for the sick person and get them better until they get better and go out again and start hunting or whatever. So the
Hmm.
reason, basic reason to live in a community was more chances of survival.
Right. So, what I see here is that in a community, the roles are well defined, and everybody involved is understanding the role played by the other person. So, understanding becomes the cue. If you have a proper understanding, it will help you set better expectations. And if you have fair expectations, you will be able to play your role and accept other people's role easily. And that is going to facilitate, let me say, balance.
Absolutely. So let's say man and woman started to live together in a community. And then what happened? There was times when the women were pregnant. During pregnancy and childbirth, as we all know, that is the most vulnerable period of our life. Physically, we are more in the protective stage where we are protecting another life inside of us. So we cannot go out that time. Like imagine in olden times, like in those times where life wasn't this easy, we wouldn't be able to go out and hunt, right? We wouldn't be able to go out and do all those things, all other chores which would require a lot of physical effort, lot of strain. So that was the time when the wise elderly people in the community saw that we need to protect our next generation. If women would go out and go for hunting or go for, doing hard work at that time, then the chances is that they would not deliver a healthy born baby. So there were more less chances of like having the human race on the planet. If women would not deliver healthy babies, then there were no human being on the planet. After a few generations, the human race would be wiped out. So there were
Right.
elderly people that time who had decided perhaps that women will be doing certain work in this period and men would be taking care of the other work which needed to go outside, which needed outdoor activities, hardcore chores, which women would be exempted from during this time. So, as a result, the division of labor started to happen. And it was only keeping in mind the survival of our descendants on the planet. Because every rule, if you think that society has created until now, is for survival, only for survival.
Right. Very true. So the key is survival, and how
It
it
was.
continues through collaboration and cooperation, and understanding of everybody's role involved in a family or a community, and a synergy in performance of those roles. What happens when that synergy is disrupted? What happens when connections are becoming complex? And why do they become complex? Can we reflect on that? How do complexities seep into a relationship?
So over time, let's say the baby is born. Now, we know that during the first few years of a baby's life, the mother's presence is very important because the mother is that time there was no baby food available in the market, so the mother had to nourish the baby. So the mother's presence was very important with the baby. As a result, if you take 100, 200 years of this going in progress, later on, what would happen? Women will get used to certain kind of jobs, and men would get used to certain kind of job. We accept how life is, and we carry on in this way. But over time, the community expanded because now the survival rate of human beings increased. So the communities expanded, and now they were just hunting wouldn't be enough. So now people had to go out and trade between communities. They had to go out and other than trading, now they also needed to protect their community. So they were soldiers, like army was created to protect the community. So all these kind of work were given to men because again for the same reason that women would have to discontinue this one in a certain period of their life. So the grooming, when we have like me as a mother, if I have a boy and a girl, I would groom them separately. I would bring them up with different kind of values because I know that there is a protocol that the girl has to do and a protocol that the boy has to follow later on when they grow up. So over time, what happened? Human beings lost the foundation of this division. They forgot all about it, I believe, and they started to understand that okay, the boy is going to come back and feed me. The girl will go into another house. So I need to take care of the boy more and please the boy more, or please the man who is going to become tomorrow's man. And there were certain things that went out of control where men started to take advantage of this power that they had that was given to them, which they did not understand the basic rule for which this was created. And obviously, let's say a rule is created today, 200, 500 years ahead. If there is no amendment of this rule, then this rule is going to be dysfunctional at that time if people still continue to follow those rules back in the future. So there needed to be an amendment in those rules, which never happened in the course of time. While society changed, the protocol that was given to men and women in the beginning changed, and we didn't have to do all of those the same kind of chores anymore. Today's modern society, man and a woman is going out and working outside equally. A man is equal hunter as the woman is. The man is an equal trader as a woman is. The man is an equal soldier as the woman is. So now everything is coming together in terms of the chores that we have to do for survival and to bring the community or keep the community together. But the basic foundation for which this was created, when it was distorted, that distortion in the mind and in the ethical, let's say, values of people have not changed. So that is creating more dysfunction today. And the dysfunction was not there back then when it was all created. There were a lot of understanding, acceptance, and harmony back then.
So today the rules are they have become different because people have lost the deeper understanding of how, like, of what kind of role a woman should have and what kind of role a man should have. So there
So,
is there is this debate all the
and
time about
yeah,
parity and equality.
exactly. So, a woman who is taking care of the family, who had been taking care of the family, let's say I'm talking about past 300, 400 years ago, they were taking care of the family, and then men had understood that they have the power because they are bringing money into the household and they can control the other members of the household. So they started to abuse this power that they had, and women felt deprived, oppressed, never allowed to do the things that is okay to do now. It is not back then that they have to go hunting in a forest which is full of predators. They can go out and do things today, like education, for example. They were deprived of it. Many other things women were deprived of because men were battling here the power on the women and trying to oppress the women, telling them you don't need it because you're going to, after all, take care of children at home. You don't need to be educated. But they forgot that these children, you are the children of a mother who is uneducated. How can you have proper education? Just going to school or college doesn't make anyone educated if the mother is incapable of giving you the values that is required for you to become a proper human being. So women were oppressed over time and suppressed in the society, which led to feminism, which led to women thinking that now I have to take revenge. I have to come out and take revenge. And that also brought this balance back.
So feminism originated from revenge, revenge to
Oppression,
sustain power, equal power.
oppression, suppression. And it was too much to bear. So women
Right.
had to revolt. So revolution, every time revolution is the result of oppression. If you think about all the revolutions that happened around the world, you will notice that they came after hundreds of years of oppression of the society.
Oppression has been in how many different forms? Like, how did people identify that there is oppression that only women are experiencing? Was it
Uh,
denial of access to decision
Access
making?
to education, access to money, access to no access to money, no access to education, no access to decision making, and treatment, treated badly, treated disrespectfully.
That brings us to importance of respect.
Yeah, self-respect develops from our inner childhood. Like we help as parents, self-respect or self-esteem in a child to grow up. And it is on how we treat our children that makes them develop that inside of them. And if they are not treated well, then
Hmm.
how can they have high self-esteem, which will result into not having any self-respect as an adult?
Right. So, Sharmishta, in today's society, when we talk about a caregiver, who is exactly is the caregiver now? And what are the essential qualities of a caregiver?
So the caregiver is always the mother in a normal dynamics in a family where a mother is giving birth. A mother can only have food for the child. The breast milk comes into the mother's body; it doesn't come into the father's body. So the mother is essentially the primary caregiver in the childhood of a baby. Like I would say the age group is 0 to starting from 0 to maybe like the first 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, or 3 years. Because without the mother being close to the baby doesn't have any food. Unless, of course, today we have supplements and substitute foods, which we are using for our children. But this is not why, this is not what how nature has created.
Yes, that's a fact. So, we are not receiving any questions from our audience side today, which is very surprising for me. So, our dear listeners, feel free to ask us questions about power dynamics in a relationship, and we will take your points. We will also respect your views and show them, and we will continue the discussion on the basis of the input that you are giving us. Remember that the talk show is to involve you into the discussion, not just both of us talking. So, we are waiting for you to share your viewpoints with us. On a second note, Shanishta, how to strengthen a relationship? Do you think that giving more importance to the caregiver will make things better?
Yeah, not like importance both way. Like giving importance to the caregiver is very essential. But first of all, women have to identify that there are certain traits in what we call feminine traits in us, which is our softness. And softness is our power. It's not our weakness. Our curiosity and our intuitiveness is also our strength, our power. It's not our weakness. Women have to identify these powers in them and not to treat them as weaknesses. So I know many women and have known because of my profession, my majority of my clients, we know that women are more connected, women are more sensitive. So this sensitivity that we have is also our power. It's not our weakness because women come to me telling me that, oh, I'm very sensitive and it's a bad thing. And I tell them, no, it's not a bad thing. It is your power. So please, women who are listening, identify your traits. The feminine traits are your power. We do not have to adopt the traits of men to feel powerful. We have our, when we connect with that and identify with that, then only we can be powerful on the planet. And then the men or other people around will respect us because we have connected with our own power.
Right, very true. What we have noticed is that usually imbalance in a relationship arise around specific themes, which include money, finances, intimacy, decision making, different duties and responsibilities. What are the points that allow us to avoid imbalance in all these four areas? How can we create and sustain balance positively throughout the life of our relationship? Because most of our relationships are for a lifetime, right? We are with our children for a lifetime. We are with husbands, and husbands are with their wives for a lifetime. Our relationship with our parents is like for as long as the parents are with us alive, and we are taking care of them and they are taking care of us. So going back to the family relationships and the intimate relationships, how do we continue to sustain, let's say, balance in power and respect each other in terms of when it comes to finance, one, second, intimacy, third, decision making, and fourth, duties and responsibilities? Let's cover all of these one by one.
So the first one is, let's say, finances, right? I think, are we talking about a homemaker, female, who is not independent financially, or are we talking about a career woman who has her share of income as well?
We can take both scenarios, Sharmishta, one by one. Like, let's consider a family unit, right? A woman and a man. And there has to be finances in a family that need to be taken care of, right? Now we have been asserting from the beginning of the show that woman is the caregiver, which is a fact and it cannot be denied. So when it comes to the caregiver's rights and she looks at the financial stability in a family unit, what does she expect from a man to do? What does a man expect from her to do? How they can both share the power to ensure that there is stability and there is no conflict there, and things are staying positive in a family and there is balance.
So, as I understand that money, whichever source it comes from, whether it's coming from a man or a woman, whoever is the, let's say, provider, or if both are the provider, the bigger story here is the family, not the individual. So, always keeping in mind what is the bigger story, then we should look forward to building that up. The family unit needs to be stable. I don't need to be stable personally, or the man or the woman. The family needs to be stable. So, whatever decisions are to be taken, if both the parties take keeping in mind the bigger picture, which is the family unit, which is the children that's coming in the future, which is, let's say, a shelter over our head, or whatever it is that is the priority at that moment, and pull the money together into that to make that happen, then there should not be any problem. There should not be a problem that who is giving 100 dirhams and who is giving 1,000 dirhams to it. As long as both are creating, have the same goal in mind and working together to fulfill that goal.
Right, true. So do you think that the when we have women working, um, as compared to a family where the woman is not working and is not providing for the family, there is any sort of imbalance? Because many women start thinking that since they are working and they are contributing towards providing for the family, this is causing some kind of imbalance. What are your views?
Uh, I have seen most of homemakers, most of the people I know as homemakers, feeling very discontent about their life, only because they are not able to earn money and they don't feel fulfilled in terms of finances, because they have to go and ask their husband every time they need to spend 1 dirham or $1 or whatever it is. So there is a feeling of, let's say, shame in going and asking for that money, because the dynamics is not balanced. The man always made comments or remarks while giving the money to the woman that they don't deserve it. It is him who is earning the money, and it is he who decides how much he's going to give and how much she has the right to spend, and come back and give all the details of what she has spent, even showing the bills, which is very insulting, could be, to women, because that kind of proves that there is a lack of trust. And this is where the problem starts. It starts from there, where women become unhappy in the relationship, they are discontent, and they are looking for a way out, and they feel they have to do something now, break out from this system where they don't have to answer to their husband for whatever money they spend.
Right. Let's look at the second dynamic of intimacy. Sometimes, um, let me say, it's a little bit complex. Consciousness of contribution towards intimacy can also create problems between people, especially in intimate relationships.
Yeah.
So, how do we sustain a balance there? Can we always have the same level of emotions, the same level of desire, the same level of belongingness? Is it
Uh,
possible?
no, it is not possible to have the same level of desire, or needs are also not the same, because we are, we think differently, we feel differently, so it's not possible. But that's why it is important that when we know that we are two different people, let's accept that two people, when they come together, they cannot be alike in every way. They are different. And how to live with that difference, we have to learn. How to balance this difference and create harmony is what we learn. And for learning, there is no shame if you have to go for a course to do, together and understand each other, because you're doing it as an investment to this relationship, so that you can sustain this relationship, create harmony together. So I don't feel there should be any point of shame in any among partners to go and take a workshop, or come for a session, or do something where they know and they can talk openly. Okay, I have this need, or I do not have this need. How can
Right.
we create a balance where you don't feel dissatisfied and I don't feel pressurized?
So therapy can actually facilitate an understanding the changes that are coming in various levels of intimate relationships, because life is not the same always, and we all go through different phases. Even when we are on the family way, things are different, because obviously a big change is coming in the family, and that new addition could be challenging for the caregiver because the care will be divided. So, at that time as well, I strongly believe that a therapist should be with us to help, to make sure that we are able to handle what's coming. And then there are all kinds of emotions that are storming
Yeah.
us all the time. So,
Actually,
when
this
it comes
I
to,
want to add
yes,
something.
sure.
In the olden times, we know that prostitution has been the oldest trade on our planet, right? It's again it came into existence because of this dynamics where men used to be out as traders, as hunters, as soldiers, and women would be taking care of the kids. So when the man would come back home, they would be hungry and needed to, let's say, express themselves sexually, which they were deprived while they were away. But if the woman is taking care of the children and is busy, like, kids around and doing other chores, women during those times would not have this understanding that they have to be with the man, so that the whatever they have been deprived of all these times, now they have come back home. So when men come back home, they're looking for home cooked food, they're looking to express themselves sexually. But if the woman of the house is unavailable, that's where this industry has come into play, because there needs this expression. If this expression doesn't happen, then it is psychologically and morally going to be impacting these men who are going to be who soldiers, hunters, traders, and going out tomorrow again in the world and facing all the challenges that they have to. So it took a lot of time for women to understand this. And by the time we
Right.
understood, it was already too late. But I believe that this can be brought into balance by more education, sexual education in women, and understanding that how it is important also to express yourself sexually, and there is no shame or taboo attached to sexual expression.
Thank you so much for a very detailed answer. Let's move to the third dynamic of decision making. Usually, the breadwinner becomes the decision maker, because
Absolutely.
that happens as the person feels that, okay, since I am responsible for the well-being of the family and to sustain the family as a well-off unit in the society, therefore the power lies with me and I am the one who should be making decisions. What do you think, Sharmishta, here? Do you think that this will lead to a balanced system in the family? Will it not disrupt the, will it not yani, initiate a power wall?
It might, but it again depends. Say all the financial decisions, investment wise, that has to be made, it's my husband who makes always, because he has more knowledge, detailed knowledge of numbers, banks, accounts, finances, investments, which is not my forte at all. So if I go and meddle there, I'm going to make bad decisions. So it is to understand also that who is capable or who has more understanding of whichever field, and give them the benefit to take the choice or to make that decision. If he's going to come and make a decision at home, oh, this wall has to be, let's say, this color, and if I think I have a better understanding of the, let's say, aesthetic side of life, then he should be able to have confidence on me that I will take the right decision here. It is not his forte. Aesthetics is not his forte. It's mine. So we can have that kind of balance as well, understanding that who is good in what, and let them do what they are good at.
Yes, I totally agree with this. We need to understand who's better at what and let them do what they're good at. That will save us from a lot of trouble. Duties and responsibilities make crux of a relationship. Yes. In more balanced and healthy relationships, both the parties are understanding their duties and responsibilities, and there is a natural willingness to carry on with providing their best efforts in fulfilling everything. How does the imbalance seep in? And how can we restore balance? Will talking about duties and responsibilities be sufficient always, or there needs to be done more?
It has to be implemented. Talking is nothing if there is no actions taken. In everything, we can talk a lot, we can promise a lot, but if we do not deliver, then we disappoint people.
Yes, I agree with this. Actions tell like they are necessary, and obviously a person's family life or when you're in a relationship, it's not a thing to play with. So each person has to contribute towards the stability of a relationship by doing their part. How often all members in the family aware of their duties?
Hardly. Most of the
And
time,
if
we
they're
are not.
not, how can we make it possible?
We are not. So, let's say when a girl gets married, they go usually, most of us, we go to our husband's home to stay. Some don't, which is now happening in today's society. But I would say majority of us go and stay with our husband. And as when we move from one home to the other, women, we are taught that from the beginning you have to go and follow the rules of that house. So as we were in the house of the parents, we had to follow the rules created by parents. And now when we are going to the in-laws, we have to follow the rules created by the in-laws, which becomes very challenging for a woman because all their life they feel I have to follow rules made by others. When is it going to be my time that I'm going to create rules and others are going to be there following those? And it is normal for us to feel very challenged. That is why men have to also be educated here, and the women have to know it's where the challenge is. It's not outright going and being rebellious or defying rules wouldn't help here. We have to educate both the parties into creating common grounds, common conditions, as I call them. That living is conditional. If you remember in the first episode, we spoke about that loving is unconditional. We can love people, but when we start living with them, we realize that we cannot live with them because living is conditional and we have to follow certain conditions to create harmony while we are living with them. And if both the parties or one party doesn't follow those conditions, then we fall apart. So we have to observe those conditions. We have to create new conditions which both the parties accept. Okay, like let's say a silly example, I want to go to bed, eat early dinner, and go to bed early. It can, it's my might sound silly, but it can create a lot of dysfunction if you have a partner who wants to eat very late dinner and like is awake whole night doing something because he can't sleep early, and then both of us over time will have a dysfunctional relationship. Very simple things can also, in a prolonged period of time, create dysfunction. So we need to understand very well what are the rules that we need to follow as a couple, as in this space that we are creating. What will bring balance and harmony, and how to continue to implement that, irrespective of how hard it is in the beginning. But once we create a pattern, things get easier over time.
So living together, I'm going back to that part where you said that okay, we fall in love, we believe that yes, we have to live our lives together, but when it comes to actually living together, there are many challenges. And I believe one of the major challenges, apart from responsibilities and awareness of duties, and then the willingness to perform those duties, is also culture
Mm-hmm.
and the external environment. So there are all kinds of external forces, including the culture, the expectations of other people in the family, and then the roles played by other people in the family. So the power distribution, when a woman goes to live with her in-laws, with her husband, the power distribution existing in that family influences the way she is going to behave, act, and accept that. And that is where a lot of conflict might arise, and understanding that. So how do you believe that those external factors should be readjusted to accept her as a new member in the family, and to make sure that she's adjusting and living a normal and healthy life with a thriving relationship with her husband and other family members?
So every family which is going through this transition of having a new member starting to live with them, or a new member going out of the family to live in another family, let's say, this is a period of transition. And in this period of transition, everyone should go through a reshuffle. Like a society has to go, our society had to go through reshuffle in the form of revolution or rebellions to create new rules which would accommodate others as well, because certain sects of the society or certain people were not getting fully integrated or accepted. The same thing in a smaller unit, which is a family. We need to reshuffle the rules and understand. Okay, this is a person is coming home, a new person. The person doesn't know what the rules are. So first few days orientation is important. Like when you go to the university, what happens first few days, you are going through that period of orientation, right? There is a senior who is your guide going through telling you this is how it is, this is how it works, this is going to be your room, that you have to go to, go in by this time, after this hour is curfew hour. So every family needs to go through that orientation when a new member comes in, which no family does. So if we could, we have these rules in other, let's say, institutions, but we need to
Yes.
understand and bring this into our family institution as well, and see how much harmony we can create.
Hmm. Hmm. I agree with this 100%. We have a comment from someone which is very interesting. Look at this. Relationship requires sacrifice at both ends. I do not agree with this.
Instead of sacrifice, let's say adjustments.
Adjustment. I was about to say that. It's not really sacrifice. It's not really sacrifice. It's coming to a point where you understand, okay, this is required and this is not required. Hence, you
And
do the need.
we prioritize. When we
Yes,
prioritize
and we buy.
relationship over, let's say, gaming in the night with friends, then we make adjustments, and we adjust and prioritize relationship and do whatever it needs for the relationship to thrive.
Yeah, very true. We have a comment from someone. It says, our power roles always one sided. I believe it keeps on changing as per situation and time. Can it be expressed differently as power is too strong a word when it comes to relationships?
Okay. Yeah, do power, definitely the power, the role, the dynamic changes. Over time, men used physical power and financial power, or let's say the over others. I wouldn't say women in general, but over others to control the situation. And women, as women, we also use our power, which is manipulation. We know very well how to manipulate others and to get by and get our job done. So both the parties have their own weapons that we use to create or let's say to get our thing done our way. And so it keeps on changing from one to the other, but many times we see it's one sided as well. That is when the other in the relationship, whether it is a man or a woman, feels threatened or unsafe or insecure. That is when they come for and they need to break that they feel they need to break the relationship, and it's getting toxic for them because they cannot handle any longer this imbalance in power.
Okay, now I'm going towards something different and I'm going towards the self of the caregiver, self awareness of the caregiver. Because caregiver is central to the health of all relationships in a family, and that's my very strong belief. Do you believe that caregiver's relationship to herself first matters a lot, and then she goes on trickling down the same sort of love to everybody else in the family?
Absolutely, like until 40 years of my life, like I got married when I was 24, until 40, I was a homemaker. And I started my career only after 40. And so, as a career woman, I am much, let's say, mm, came in my later part of my life when my responsibility towards my family was kind of getting over. My son was growing up, and he was about to leave for university. And that's where I thought it's my time to look into other things and explore myself beyond the caregiver role that I have been all this time. And so I understand very well the challenges that I had. And Nosheen, I really look forward to help empower today's caregiver. And I have so many friends who are in the same role that I used to be, and who feel, who are going through very low phases in their life, not knowing how to get out of it, what they should or how they should educate themselves to get out of it, and feeling that they have lost a purpose of life, they are useless, they have nothing to contribute to life, and like all of that phase that a caregiver goes through, it's only because in the early part of their life, the self esteem was not fully developed as a child. They did not know that they are choosing this. Like, if I made a choice to become a caregiver, it is my choice, and my choice is my power because I chose it. And when I chose to become a caregiver, I should know as an adult every choice has consequences. Then, when the consequences are there, I should also be able to take the responsibility of those choices that I have made. So, being a caregiver, if I'm choosing, I would know that I would have less freedom over my husband. And
Mm.
then, when I'm facing that on a daily basis, how to handle that? As an adult, I should be able to acknowledge and accept the limitation of the role that I'm getting into. Let's say on stage, if you're acting out a play and you're not the hero or the heroine of the play, there are so many other roles that are there in a drama, right? And we all know there are limitations in every role. You can do only this much, not beyond that. So when you step into that role, you have to also accept the responsibility that comes with the consequences of the choices that we have made in life. We cannot back out. We cannot now say that, no, now I'm not ready to handle it anymore. Then,
Mm.
of course, you will be required to go and take help. And if you do not take help, then you will never be able to come out of this, because this is just one sided, like a dark tunnel. The more you go
Mm.
in, you cannot see light. The deeper you go in, you will be stuck over there.
Very true. Thank you so much for today's advice, Shamishta. It's very enlightening. The discussion has, I'm sure, opened many doors for many people. If you are facing difficulties in building stronger and thriving relationships, you can always talk with Shamishta about those. Um, you can see at the bottom of this video the email address and phone number where you can reach out to Shamishta and speak with her. You can also connect with her through LinkedIn and carry on your discussions related to fostering relationships. If you are a caregiver and you believe life is not as you want it to be, you need help. And you certainly need to discuss and go through a therapy to ensure that your life is as you want it and it's as fulfilling as you expected it to be. There is no time to waste. Just go on and do your best to make your life more fulfilling and meaningful. Thank you so much for watching us today. Thank you, Shamishta, for being with us.
Shane,
Have a
and
good day.
thanks to our viewers. But today we didn't get quite many questions like the last times. But I hope if there are any questions that come to you while you watch, you can just post it on No Shane's LinkedIn, and we will get back to you with your answers.
Sure. Thank you. Have a good day, Shamishta. Take care,
You,
everybody.
bye.